Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are right at 8:30. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order here. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Brian, and I am an alcoholic. This is a one-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday here at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. That's 301 North Main Street in Doylestown, PA. The food and the fellowship for this group starts at 8 o'clock, and the speaker comes on at 8:30 every week. We have a business meeting for this group that meets every Saturday, 7 p.m. to 7:30. So feel free to come early and join us. If you want to get involved with service, even better. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others can benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. So if there's anyone that is new at this meeting for the first time or maybe visiting from out of town that would like to introduce yourself on a first name basis so that we can welcome you. Yeah. Matt. Welcome. Yeah.
My name is John. I'm an alcoholic.
John. Welcome. Yeah.
Tom, alcoholic.
Tom.
Will, alcoholic.
Bill.
Dan, alcoholic.
Dan. Nice, yeah.
Jim, alcoholic.
Jim. Welcome.
Mike, alcoholic.
Mike. Welcome. We touch them all. Anybody? Over here, yeah. Virginia. Welcome. Sue. Welcome, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm a recovered member now.
Welcome. A lot of new faces. Nice. We got everybody? Awesome. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship with anyone with a working knowledge of the 12 steps and who is willing to sponsor. Please raise your hands. So we do have plenty of people willing to sponsor. If you are new, hang out with us after the meeting. Grab one of those people. There'll be a whole group of us breaking down the meeting. I always say we'd love to talk with you, get you some phone numbers, some meeting lists, get you involved into the solution a little bit. So hang out with us after the meeting. Are there any announcements for the good of AA from the floor? Anybody have anything going on? Yes, Nick.
This just in, the third annual Bucks Unity event, that is in Doylestown on Sunday, June 29th. It's from 12 noon to 3:30 p.m. I have a flyer if interested. I guess it's some type of workshop. I just have a flyer. Also, we have a Venmo. I'll see if you want the QR code for the 7th session.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for your service. Anybody else have anything? A couple announcements from this group. This group does have a sister group. It's a big book study meeting that meets every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. right up the road here at Salem UCC Church at 186 East Court Street in Doylestown. And the coffee for that meeting is on at 6:15. So again, feel free to show up early, join us if you want to get involved in service. Just hang out with us. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books to help those who cannot afford them can put donations in that jar on the back table marked Big Book and CD Donations. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's called the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown. We post all our speakers from this group on there. So if you come here, you hear a message that you think somebody could benefit from, it's an easy way to share it with somebody is through the YouTube. We also have a Facebook page. We post all our upcoming speakers on there, events, workshops, things we might have going on, any news about the meeting. Other groups will post things they have going on there. So it's a good resource to have to stay tied in with happenings in AA throughout this whole area here. And with that, we're going to bring Thomas up here. Thomas is going to read our Just for Today prayer.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Thomas, and I'm an alcoholic. This is the Just for Today prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And with that, we're going to have Murph come up to read the preamble.
Hey guys, I'm Murph. I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problems and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And please help me welcome Nick to read the 12 steps.
My name's Nick. I'm an alcoholic, also known as Alcohol Nick. Welcome home, everybody. Okay, the 12 steps of recovery. Step 1, we admitted we are powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. And Step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And Step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. And now we'll have Brian come back up to introduce our speaker.
Okay, this group does have a 7th tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we'll see that the basket makes its way around. Again, there's no dues or fees for AA membership, but we do have expenses, and your contributions do help us to cover the cost of rent, food, workshop fees, etc., so we do appreciate it. There's absolutely no smoking on the church property. We got a good working relationship with the church. They let us hold the meeting here every week. Really, all they ask is that we keep the premise clean, so just be considerate of that as you're coming and going from the meeting. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And now to introduce our speaker for tonight, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group, on loan to us all the way from Florida. Please help me welcome Matt A.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Anderson. I'm an alcoholic. I'm really uncomfortable in suits. I wear a lot of stuff like this for work. So when I come to Alcoholics Anonymous, I kind of don't want to wear stuff like this, you know. And my daughter's in the back. She's nonverbal autistic. So, you know, please have some patience if she gets a little, you know, rambunctious, you know. So in the big book Alcoholics Anonymous on page 25, who's been through the steps here? Show of hands. Beautiful, right? And it says this: the great fact for us, those of us that went through the work, is this and nothing less: that we have had deep and effective spiritual experiences revolutionizing our whole attitude toward life, toward God, and towards this universe. And then on page 29, there's 42 personal stories in that book. 42 of them. And on page 29, it tells us exactly what the stories are about. It says each person in the personal stories describes in their own language and from their own point of view the way they establish their relationship with God. It doesn't say anything about getting sober. It said all the stories, including mine, are about how I built my relationship with my Creator. Now, a lot of people get a little, you know, funny with the God thing because you're thinking that we're talking about the God that you grew up with, or the God that you currently have that conception of, or the one that you had a conception of and already rejected, and that's not what we're talking about. So I'll say this before I start. I've been a violent criminal my whole life. I spent 17 years of my life in prison. I've probably been dead at every hospital on the East Coast from Cooper Union in Camden, New Jersey to North Philly, flatlined from overdoses on other alcoholic substances, you know, because it didn't just stop with alcohol for me. It started with alcohol. And then I leave there and I'm West Palm Beach, Florida, Christiana Hospital in Christiana, Delaware, flatlined at these places. And like I had no idea, like as a juvenile though, like I had this loss of control. I don't know if you can relate to that, but even as a child, I come from a violent home. My dad was violent. I grew up in a violent neighborhood. My brothers were violent. I'm the youngest. There was a lot of fights going on. I come from that era of like, you know, you get into an argument or whatever, you duke it out at the park, you circle up, you know, and whoever wins, cool. And then you shake hands on the man on the bus the next day, and that's it. Y'all end up being cool. That's the era I come from, you know. And like I always wanted to be something other than I was. I watched Rocky. I wanted to be Rocky. I watched Rambo. I wanted to get a Rambo knife and tie some boots up. You know? I seen the Terminator. I wanted to be Arnold. You know? There was a lot of things in my life that I wanted to be other than myself. But I learned this loss of control thing that I'm describing to you. I lost control of my emotional nature as long back as I can remember. As far back as I can think of, even at my child's age now, I remember losing control, breaking things, punching holes in walls, breaking chairs, fighting with everybody, throwing boots at my brothers, grabbing knives, whatever I had to do. Like I remember I would get angry and lose control. And of course, loss of control ended me up in places like a juvenile detention center, you know. And in that juvenile detention center when I was a kid, I was really objectionable to any God ideas. I was objectionable to anything that anybody had to say because I was like 14, I knew everything. And I was extremely violent even inside the juvenile detention center. And it got to a point where they placed me on what they call administrative segregation. And administrative segregation is when you are not allowed to interact with the regular population because you just can't keep your hands off of people. So they put me on admin say where I wasn't allowed to interact with anyone. And I remember being in that cell and they would never let me out. And I remember there was this guy and his name was Daryl. And he worked 12 to 8 shift, and he was the CO at the juvenile detention center. I'll never forget it. And he would come in, and at 12 to 8 shift, when everybody's asleep, he would let me out of my cell. And he wanted to read the word to me. And what I mean by the word is the big, big book. And, you know, he wanted to talk to me about this man named Christ and stuff like that. And let me say this, too. When I'm mentioning the way that I built my spiritual relationship with God, it might not be the way you did, but this is, you know, and it also talks in the big book, we make no distinction on what religious beliefs that our members identify themselves with. So if you identify differently, that's okay, too. However, for me, he started to talk about this dude named Christ, and I really didn't want to hear none of that mess, but I wanted to get out of this cell, you know? So I would listen. And then he started to put this God fella into a way that I could understand. He started to talk to me about this guy, and he started to talk about how he was a gangster. And I always wanted to be a gangster. So when he told me this stuff, and I'm like, explain to me how this guy's a gangster. And he was like, well, he knew they was going to kill him. And he was like, here I am. And I'm like, man, that's gangster, you know? So just to tell you, something started to happen to me through these talks and through this interaction with this man. And you know, him putting it in a way that I could understand that things started to happen to me. I stopped cursing. I started like they were letting me out of the cell. I became unit leader. I was back at court. I wasn't as violent. Like things started to happen for my life. I felt the power of God and I knew He was real at that moment in my life. And then I got out. And just like Bill talked about the worldly clamors, right? And I got out and I started drinking again, because for me it started with Old English and Cisco. A lot of you might not know about the Cisco era, but I come from the Cisco era where we called it liquid crack. Mad Dog 2020. You know, I'm a 40-20 double deuce type of guy, you know. And then that led to other things, because under the influence, other things would come up, and of course they were okay too, because now I'm under the influence, you know. So I started using other substances, drinking really heavy, until I ended up back in and out of prison for, listen, I'll say this to you. I'll prove to you that God exists. When we were children, we all used to do something. For me, I'm a thief. I stole everything. Baseball cards, comic books, candy bars. I wanted the Ken Griffey Jr. rookie car, and the Jose Canseco and Mark McGuire rookie cards. And back then, used to get them at the 7-Eleven, and they had bubble gum in them. So we would go in there and steal all the cars, trying to get the rookie cars and stuff like that. And then my dad had this, and I'm talking about like 8 years old, you know. And my dad had this thing. It was about this size, and it was a metal thing, and he kept money in it. And I remember when he kept money in it, I remember going to steal, because I hated my dad. We wanted to do very bad things to my father growing up. And I remember going in to get his great thing, because there was this guy down the street who had a mini bike for sale, and he wanted $80 for it. And I was like, I can afford that through my dad's great thing, you know? So I went up and I opened it up, and remember, where's the thieves at in here? There's a lot of you lying. You know? Don't act like you ain't steal the gum. You know you was in there plucking the candy, you know? So anyway, when I stole stuff, remember that feeling that we had when we were kids? I'm talking about before alcohol, drugs, and whatever you were doing ever came up, rather it was sexual, rather you were stealing. Something inside of you, they called it our conscience. Conscious contact, right? They called it our conscience, but other people said if you hear voices, you're crazy. But I heard it loud and clear when I was a child. When I went to go get that $20 from my dad, something inside of me was like, don't do that. It was loud. Remember that? Like you could feel it on the inside that you knew you were doing something wrong. I felt it. It was there. It was strong. It was loud. And I heard it loud and clear. And so did you. That was God. He's always been in your life. He's been there the entire time. We just didn't know. So what we do, and what I believe, not just what happened to me, but also this may have happened to you as well, where that power, that thing, that conscious contact that I had with God as a child, I started to block it off by everything that it told me not to do, I did it. Don't do that. I don't like my dad. F that. Give me that. Don't rob that house. Do it. Don't drink. I do it. And every time I did it, that don't do that, I did it so many times, and on through the years, my conduct continued, and that sound that said, don't do that, started to sound like this. And I put my spirit to sleep. And I had no idea what the consequences were going to be by putting my spirit to sleep. So when my spirit's asleep and alcohol and drugs start to come into play, and I'm drinking real heavy and things like that, and even though DARE came to school, just like they came to your school, and I seen movies like New Jack City and Pookie and what drugs and alcohol did to him. I seen movies like Menace to Society and what it did to them. I had people very clear in my neighborhood, you know, from where I'm from, and I seen what alcohol did to them as well. I seen what it did to people. I watched it. But of course, when my spirit's asleep, won't get me like that, because there's no God left. All that's left is me, my ego. And I think that I can control and manage it. So of course, just like you, I've tried to control and manage it. And that's how I feel like what happened to me. And then the alcoholism just started to come into place super heavy in my life, which led me to going back to prison, ignoring that sound in my head, get out, and I swear I got a new way. I'm going to do it differently, and I get out again. Mind you, listen, it was so dark. I never knew how dark it was going to be without that power that I had found in that juvenile detention center. Check this out. My brother has a daughter. She's at my house right now. My brother has a daughter. Her name is Marley, named after Bob Marley. And Marley was playing the claw machine. She was playing the grab machine. And when she's playing the grab machine, she won a dolly. And as she was leaving, she seen another little girl playing the claw machine, and she wasn't winning. So she goes to my brother, who's her father, my niece, right, and says, "Daddy, can I give this to her?" And my brother was perturbed. He was like, "Of course you can." Because my brother lives this way of life that you and I do as well. He has 20 years. And they're walking outside, so he lets her go. They go out. She goes out to the little girl, and the little girl's father's there, and he says, "Do you want to play again?" And she said, "No, I just want to give this dolly to her." And she gave her the dolly. And they're walking outside, and my brother's walking outside with his daughter, and he just got on his knees and looked her eye to eye, and he said, "What made you do that?" And she said, "I don't know. Something told me to do that." And unlike maybe the people you had in your life, my brother told her, "Whatever told you to do that, listen to it, and you'll never go wrong." That was God directing her, even as a child. So on through the years, my conduct continues, right? And I put that spirit to sleep. So that thing is real, and I didn't know how dark it was going to be. How many years? Nobody. I seen all the benefits of alcoholism, right? I seen the benefits of drinking and partying, right? I seen that you could acquire women, you can acquire some respect, you could get into some trouble. People would think you're the man, right? And you would get this reputation. Because look, I'm out here, rather you was in a frat party or whatever it is you was doing, but I seen like the benefits of what alcohol and alcoholism would do for me, but none of them people told me about the consequences behind following that. They didn't tell me that I was going to spend 17 years of my life in prison. I would go in, get out, try again, go back in, and I'm not talking about like I was doing 5 years, getting completely physically separated. I'm glad you guys are here. This is what you are attending is a 12-step fellowship. Very same thing as you attend. Your fellowship is a 12-step fellowship. What we do is work the 12 steps in the 12-step fellowship. But I had no idea. Every time I got out of jail, I would come here because I knew somehow that this was the solution, and I would go to meetings. So as I come to meetings and I start to see and all I'm hearing back then anyway, for me, all I heard was come to the meeting. I had no one outline to me what I'm about to outline to you. And if you've been misinformed of what we're doing here and what this is about, you won't be misinformed after this evening. So check it out. When I come in here, and what happened to me is I had resigned to the fact that I'm going to die or I'm going to spend the rest of my life in prison. That was satisfying to me. I accepted and knew that they were the two things that life and God had for me. And all of a sudden, it wasn't. And I got introduced to this fellowship down West Palm Beach, Florida, into different meetings. And I remember they had this little bald dude, and I was at the end of my rope, man. And to be really blunt with you and be really transparent with you, I did not want to stop drinking. I only needed a break so when I left, the alcohol would have an effect again, because it lost its effect. And I just wanted to get sober for a minute, to get out, to drink again, to have an effect, because alcohol and drugs were my solution. I never knew that they weren't the problem. They were the solution to my problem. Anxiety, I know what to fix that. Relationship issues, I know exactly what to fix that. My kids being bad, I know what to fix that. I got a problem at work, I know what to fix that. I'm having problems in bed, I know what to fix that. It's the solution to all my problems until it stopped being a solution. So when I came in, I understood that there was something that had to be done. So I'm in this rehab in West Palm Beach, Florida. And they had this little old man come in there, right? And we have zero in common. And mind you, the 12 steps was the last stop on the block for me. It was the last stop on the block. Listen, let me tell you some things that I've tried. I've tried counseling, detox, rehabs, going to Father Martin's Ashley, going to the best known rehabs, wife and the therapist from the rehab, changing girlfriends, getting a better girlfriend, getting a better job, making more money, education, just smoking weed, just drinking beer. I've tried absolutely I studied Terrence Gorski. I had a pocket full of triggers. I can't go anywhere. You know? I can't talk to anyone. I better be an Eskimo and hide under it. And just like it says in the book, then some guy would show up with a bottle of brandy and mess it all up. I had no idea what this thing was about, man. But I wanted to try it, so of course, he's the only person that they would let in the rehab, this man that I had nothing in. He's a short little black dude named Dexter. He's from West Palm Beach, Florida. If you've ever been down there, trust me, you'll hear his name. He's got 40 years and he still does this. He's still working alcoholic to alcoholic. He's still sponsoring people and doing groups. Like, this man his longevity of this program is inspiring to someone like me. So he was coming in there, and I was like, of course I picked the most unlikely person, because the only reason that I was going to venture on this 12-step journey, because I thought I had tried it because I went to meetings and I attended 12-step fellowships, so I even thought that I had tried recovery. And then when I got to this man and he started to explain to me the process, and the only reason I picked him, like I said, was to prove to you that this wouldn't work for me. So I started it. He came in, and I remember saying this to him, because at that point, like, drugs were real heavy in my life, and alcohol become, not that I'm not an alcoholic, but alcohol was last on the block when drugs became heavy, So I thought that this wasn't for me, especially Alcoholics Anonymous. And I remember telling this man, I remember walking up to him and saying, listen, man, if you're going to tell me to call you for 30 days or read something for 30 days, and I said this I'm talking about, I meant this with every fiber of my being. I said, I'll be dead. And I knew I didn't have 30 days left. I had been dead sometimes twice a day. One time at Good Samaritan Hospital in West Palm Beach, I was flatlined twice in the same day within 6 hours. I knew that my life was hanging from a thread. And he said, no, we're not going to do that. So he started to outline this program of action to me and take me through this process. First step, I had no idea. Being powerless, right? How my life is unmanageable. When you talked to me about unmanageability, you said, Matt, how are you powerless and your life unmanageable over alcohol? And I would say, I go to jail. I didn't know what you meant, the two aspects. The first part of the first step, where we're talking about the physical aspect. What happens to me? How am I powerless, and how is my life unmanageable physically? Well, I'll tell you. Physically, when I put a substance in me, as soon as I take a drink, it don't happen to everybody. It don't happen to my mom. It don't happen to my dad. My mom and dad can have a shot of whiskey, rum and coke, right? That's what they do. Rum and coke at the wedding, and they'll have half of it, and my mom will be like, woo, a little tipsy. Mom, you want another? No. She's good. Me, I have a rum and coke at the wedding. And shortly afterward, there's a man named Flacco in the parking lot. after about 7 whiskeys and Coke, you know, I'm going to holler at Flocka. And he always says the same thing, 20 minutes. You said 20 minutes ago, where are you, you know? So he started to break down to me this physical aspect, the physical component of what happens when I pick up, something happens to me that doesn't happen in normal people. The same thing that happens to you. Let me see if we're in the right room this evening. When I pick up, they don't even know what to call it in the book. They call it something. Something happens to me where I become unable to think of anything other than more. That is it. I'm talking about it becomes more important physically than eating food, drinking water, sleeping, sex, going to work, waking up the kids, you name it. Physically, it becomes more important than anything. Is that anybody in this room? Then we got this other. Now, if that was the issue, we would all just go to rehab, detox, counseling, or whatever, get some physical, for me, prison, right? And we would get some physical separation from drugs and alcohol, and then all of a sudden, everything would be sweet. I wouldn't have to worry about it no more. I know the consequences, I know the experiences, don't want that anymore, and I would be done. However, we suffer from the second part of the first step, which is the mental aspect of powerlessness and unmanageability. Completely sober, and when I'm telling you this, I'm talking about completely sober. Let me give you an example. I get out of prison. I'm always getting out of prison. That's crazy. I get out of prison, right? And in the state of Delaware, I don't know if y'all know, but we got you're always on probation, you know? And on probation level 3, because I'm a violent criminal, and they always put me on level 3 probation. And when you're a violent criminal like myself and a 4-time violent convicted felon, you are getting a urine analysis every single week. Every week. Here's the cup, pee in it. And I know this. Not only that, but I have thousands of experiences that tell me if I pick up alcohol, it's a wrap for me. I have hundreds of consequences. I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to burn everything to the ground. I'm going to die. It's right in my face. These are facts about my life. These are 100% going to happen, and I know this, yet I'm out of prison, got to report to probation, and I'm talking about completely sober, nothing in my system. I'm talking about years physically separated from alcohol. And then I get into the parking lot of probation, and we call them a case of the suddenlies, the strange mental blank spot. And it says this, Matt, as soon as you piss in that cup, you got 7 days before you got to pee again. And I go, that's brilliant. I'm just going to do one. I'm anxious. I'm fresh out. You know, just want to feel good. I'm just going to do one. I go, I piss in the cup, pee. The lies we tell ourselves. Anybody been on their way home from work and slid into the liquor store? I'm talking about sober. You was on your way home from work and you slid into the liquor store wondering how the hell did you get there? Well, miles will do it, you know. So I say just one. I get out. I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's a good idea. And I do one. And then Ron's with me, right? And Ron's like, Matt, oh, man, you said just one. And I said, come on, Ron. You're being unreasonable. I meant one day. You know? One day turns into don't do it 3 days in a row. 3 days in a row turns into 4. 4 turns into me getting a tracksuit with trash bags, running around the neighborhood trying to sweat it out. My mom's making kale drinks. I'm buying the stuff from GNC. I'm drinking bleach and freaking vinegar and all sorts of stuff, right? I'm on day 5 now. Now I gotta steal all the piss test cups. Now I sell piss test cups, it's so crazy. But I steal all the Walgreens piss test cups, right? And I pee in one, it's still dirty. I gotta run another 0.1 miles around the neighborhood, get back, I'm sweating, I pee again, it's still dirty. Day 6, my pee's still dirty. Now I'm like drinking vinegar and all that stuff and pickle juice, and I'm still peeing dirty, and I'm on day 7, and I got like 10 hours to report, and my pee's still dirty after just one. So then I gotta buy a Whizzinator. And I don't know if you know what that is, but I go to the store and I get a Whizzinator, which is like a fake thing that you push on the head and it pees for you with some fake urine, because I already eliminated anybody in my circle that can piss clean. So I got one option: buy fake piss with a fake penis, strap it up, and go into probation and hope that and the only one they got left, that's what a Whizzinator is. Oh yeah, y'all out of it. You don't know. We know. You've been on probation, you know. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, and the only one they got left is a black man's. And I know you laughing, but what would you do? Put that joker right on. And I went in there and I pushed on it so the fake urine would come out, and my PO said, what's that? And I said, that's mine. And he said, that's not yours. And then I'm locked up again. How did I get here again? I was just sober. I just left here a week ago. How did I end up here again? Does that happen to you? How many people said, I'm done, I'm never doing this again? And then you woke up in the morning and my bones are crawling out of their skin, and I'm anxious, irritable, and discontented, and I know at once a few drinks will take that right away. That's what makes us alcoholics. That's what makes us the same. The fact that I've been to jail and I'm OD'd and all that stuff has nothing to do with our similarities. It has nothing to do with the cement that the book talks about, that common problem, that common solution that we suffer from. Do you pick up and can't stop? Is that you? Show of hands. Do you stop and then you lie to yourself to convince yourself to start again? Is that you? Then you are just like me. You are just like me. And look, I got some news for you. If that be the case, I'm going to tell you the truth. Same truth that the book of Alcoholics Anonymous tells you. Then you are suffering from something that only a spiritual experience will conquer. And when I talk about God, I'm not talking about a chair or a doorknob. Because a chair or a doorknob is not going to help Matthew Anderson when he's in the parking lot of probation and tells himself 7 days you can do just one. I need God to restore my sanity, as he talks about in the second step. When we're talking about came to believe a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity, we're not talking about in the second step, we're not talking about the insanity as I lost my kids, my job, my car, or went back to jail. That's not the insanity we're talking about. We're talking about the insanity of the first drink. I'm talking about that thing and completely sober out of nowhere, and it's like, just one. Whatever the lie is, we tell ourselves, but it is a lie, and it's so crazy. It's like, I can't believe it. It's like, I'm going to die or go to jail. That's a fact. And somehow, parallel with my own sound reasoning of dying or go to jail, somehow just one overpowers dying or going to jail and the risk of it, and gives me this idea that I have the ability to just do one. And it doesn't make sense when the consequences are you're going to die or go to jail. How just one even comes up into play is ridiculous. But that's what we suffer from. That's what we suffer from. So after I realized that I need God, I'm telling you, man, remember that thing that I told you about when I had an experience, right? In the juvenile detention center. I'm gonna be honest with you, I searched for that every single time I went to prison. I studied different religions, science, astrology. I practiced different spiritual beliefs. I did everything I could to try to get back to that, but let me be honest with you, just my experience, like I said, I tried every other way other than the way that I found it to begin with. So at that rehab, and this man explaining this stuff to me, and me understanding finally from the my innermost self, understanding what I suffer from, they wanted to take us to church at the rehab. And I'm not a church guy. I don't go to church, you know. But just like I was in that cell, I wanted to get out of the rehab. So I went. My significant other was at the rehab with me at the time. Her name was Crystal Ann Lachette. She has since passed away from a fentanyl overdose when I had 7 months sober. I went back to jail at 4 months sober for wreckage of the past. My brother died from a fentanyl overdose about 2 years ago. My nephew right after him, his son. I've lost jobs, relationships. And like I've been okay through all of it. Excuse me. He kept me okay through all of it. There's nothing that I could do outside of God. And through this program and through this man teaching me these things, and they took us to church that day, I had this experience. And this is before all of that stuff happened. I'm just giving you some insight on, you know, what we go through. And it doesn't matter what I go through, I'm going to be okay. Like, yo, that dude, I'll get to that in a minute. So when I went to this church, all I can tell you is that man spoke through that man. God spoke through the preacher directly to me. And I don't mean the preacher said, hey, you, and pointed at me or nothing that. I mean, like, I knew the story he told. I knew. I'm in West Palm Beach. I'm in this big church. All these people, like some rich people and stuff like that. And I'm not one of them, you know. And I'm looking at these people around me, and I'm like, oh, I know he's talking to me. I felt God talk to me. And I remember looking around, and all these people had their hands in the air and they were happy. And I was like, and I remember thinking this, that same thought before. Now it says this, it says, I don't even care if they're wrong. I want to believe like they believe. And Crystal grabbed my hand. And she said, and I'm talking about tears are just falling down my face. And I'm like, you know, I'm gone, man. I'm like, I can't believe. And I felt chosen. And like Crystal said, what are you crying about, Eddie? Because my brother had just got murdered at the time right here in Chester. And I remember I was like, yes, but I don't mean like, oh, poor me, I lost my friend. I was like, I just felt chosen. I felt grace and mercy, and I understood, like, I don't know. I was much worse than my friends. Eddie, Chan, Aaron, Kevin. I mean, I can go down. My immediate circle growing up are gone. And I was much worse than they were. And yet, I just sat there and I was like, oh my God. I don't know why you chose me. Why I'm here and they're not. But I'm going to do whatever you tell me to do for the rest of my life. Like, it doesn't even matter anymore. Yo, and I don't care if you think I'm a sucker. I don't care, because I come from, like, you know, that violent era. My friend called me today. He's doing 25 years, and another one called me. Both of them, there's 3 people that I know that are doing life in prison. Baby boy he's been there since I was 17. He's still there. I'm 47. And he called me today, and we caught up like as if nothing ever happened. And he tells me he's proud of me, and I start to feel like blessed again and like so grateful that like I can't believe that I'm not there with them. So after I find this power and I've had that experience, there's more to do, because a lot of people can stop there. Let me get to the point. I can't get to all of this stuff because we just don't have the time. I told you, Ron, I'm like an hour and a half type of guy. But there's more to do, because a lot of people get that spiritual experience and they find a little contact with God and they're like, okay, I'm cool now. But they don't want to do inventory on their life or make an amends or any of those things that we do. But in order to do what we do and feel like we feel and keep what we have, in order to have those things and keep them, you have to follow through with the rest of the program. Just like it says after a thirst, I mean immediately after a thirst, that we get up from our knees, and guess what it says? We launched. At once, it says words like that, very clear. At once, we launched on a course of vigorous action. And the 4-step changed my whole life. Now I didn't just have a conscious contact with God alongside of all these resentments that I've built my entire life. Let me give you an example. My dad, number 1 on my list. Pop. Hating. What'd he do? Beat us. Uncontrolled. I remember the loss of control in his face and my mom at the door begging him to stop. I remember that. And I hated him for that. And I do some inventory and I go, Pop, what'd he do? Loss of control. Was never there for me was one of them too, right? And then I do inventory on my life, and guess what I found? It changes that. You had, through those first 3 steps in that spiritual experience, it wakes you up to the ability to look at you from an entirely different angle. It says, this is an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade. Guess who's the stock in trade? You. Me. So I do this stock in trade and I realize that, let me tell you the truth. And we find the truth about us. Inventories like this. This is my store. You walk into my store. What's your name? Matt. I'm Matt too. What's up, Matt? Matt, you walk into my store. You just moved here. I've been here 20 years. Me and Ron been having this store for 20 years. All right. And you walked into our store and we got moldy bread, rotten fruit, and sour milk. What do? You leave. All these people are outside. What do you tell them? Don't go in there. And then we're pissed at you. How dare you, Matthew? Tell people not to come in my store. You just moved here, cuz. I've been here 20 years. I feed my kids like this. How dare you tell people not to come in my store? And then I do stupid stuff like, your cat might end up missing, There's all sorts of nut stuff. And then what's your name, man? Then Jay walks into the store, and I know Jay. I watched Jay change. I watched Jay be one of them dudes from my neighborhood that I used to look up to that was just a nut, and now he's different. And Jay walks into the store with me and Ron, and I can see it. I know something happened to him, and Jay says, Matt, have you done inventory? And I go, what's that? And for the first time in 20 years, I walk from behind my counter and Jay points at my moldy bread, rotten fruit, and sour milk, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm no longer angry with you anymore for telling people not to come in my store. I realized it wasn't you telling people not to come in my store that was the issue. It was me trying to sell moldy bread, rotten fruit, and sour milk. So I go, Dad. I stole everything from my dad before alcohol. Let me be clear with that. I beat people just like he beat me. I already told you I've had that same loss of control. You know why my dad beat us like that? Because his dad beat him like that. And guess what my dad is? A great person in society. And he just wanted his kids to do the same and be a great person in society. And so he did what his dad did with him. I stole my mom's wedding rings. I've had police standoffs at my mother and father's house while the neighbors watched. I've been in the newspaper smiling like this after I shot somebody. And my mom and dad had to go to work and face their employers, their neighbors, and their family members with me in the newspaper smiling. The embarrassment of my family. Guess who I expected to take care of me while I was in jail? My dad. Guess who I had a home for me when I got home? My dad. Guess who got me a lawyer? My dad. Guess who picked the phone up? My mom and dad. I've had women in this house, got drunk and high in this house. I sold drugs out of their house. I destroyed their home. And I'm like, oh my, and I'm mad at him? It puts things into perspective. I remember like going to jail and people like, yo, Matt, why are you here? And I'm like, man, the boy told on me. Forget the fact that I shot him. I'm telling you that I'm in jail because he told on me. You understand what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. And you can laugh at that. A lot of you are laughing at that, but the truth is it is funny and it's easy to see when I'm saying it, but for you to see it in you. Then my perspective starts to change on each and every individual, and you know the work is done when you get a sponsee and he gets the number 5 and he goes, yo, I don't even want to read this anymore. And you go, why? And he goes, because this is all, it's ridiculous. These resentments are absolutely ridiculous. I'm clear now that it's not anybody's fault, it's mine. Doesn't mean I don't get resentful, you know. But like when my perspective changed, everything changed. I'm talking about everything. Like I could see the world, I could finally view things the right way. I see the truth about me and I see the truth about you, and that how dare I judge you. Yo, somebody stole my car. I had a 67 Chevy Impala. They stole it twice, in fact. And I remember they stole my car and I was like, I called this dude Randy. I was like, Randy, man, they stole my car. And he's like, Matt, what'd you go to jail for? And I was like, I stole some cars. And he was like, good, now you know how they feel. And he hung up on me. And I was like, damn, it's true. How come I'll be angry with you for stealing my car and I steal cars? You know how many people woke up and went outside and their car was missing? Or their bike or their freaking motorcycle or their, purse? How dare I? And it changed everything. So then I know, after that change, now I need to make an amends to you, Matt, because, I understand that, like, I've got to get you a cat, at least one that looks the same, I got Fluffy in the basement. Maybe he's still alive. I don't know, so I got to give you Fluffy back, There's things in my life that changed. Now I know I need to make an amends, so I go to my father, someone like my dad, and which was the most difficult. And it tells us in the book that the person we hate will rise. And that's the first person, that's the number 1 person in the 9th step that it tells you to go to. The first person we discuss is the person you hate will arise. And then it says, it's easier to go to a friend than it is to an enemy. Yet we find it much more beneficial to us to do so. So I go to my dad. And it was uncomfortable. And I was like, Dad. And I outlined everything I did. I'm talking about the stuff I stole, what I did to him, how I was irresponsible. I mean, I'm just outlining every possible thing that I could, because I didn't want to leave nothing out, because I knew I had to ask another question, which was, did I leave anything out? And hopefully some people will tell you the truth and when you did leave something out. And like the 9th step made my amends, where like now I'm not angry with you. I can look the community in the eye, and things like this start to happen with my life as I move through the rest of the journey and get to a 12th step after making my 9th step amends. Now I go into the prisons, the same prison that I swore I was never going to go back to. Now I go there willingly. And some people are like, oh, that's great you do that. Man, I do that because I owe them that. The destruction that I cause inside of an institution. When my dad asked me to do something, I do it for the most part. My mom, I'll be walking out the house. My mom's like, Matt, can you grab, I'm like 3 minutes late already. My mom's like, can you get the trash? And I'm like, Mom, damn. Yes, I can get the trash. Trying to do things for people, being a part of life now. The same law enforcement that I hated, now I'm like part of their, I educate them. And I can tell you now, they pull me over and they're like, hey, what's up, Matt? And some people can call me a cop and I'm like, yup. Do something crazy to me, see if I don't call the police, I'm one of them dudes, like I came from that type of life, man, where you don't tell them no. Listen, it was embedded in us. My dad, if you told, like when I went to tell on my brother, my dad will whoop our hide if you told on each other. Mom tells you flat out, you get to the police station, you say nothing. I come from that era. Now I'm like, man, I'm telling you going to jail, you know? There's only one thing that this thing will change. There's only one thing that this thing will change in your life. Everything. I mean, everything. Like, I can't believe what God has done for me. Like, like, I'm an unsalvageable, unsavable person. I cause wreckage and destroy everything around me. I've been a violent criminal my whole life. God, like, chose me. Like, thank you for choosing me. Man, I'll leave you with this. I was 7 months sober and I got the call that she was dead, right? My girlfriend at the time. And my girl today knew my girl then, you know? We were all friends. And I remember I got the call and I remember, like, man, like being broken. I'm talking about broken. And I remember getting on my knees and I was like, God, please, I'll do whatever you want for the rest of my life. I'll go wherever you want me to go and do whatever you want me. And I'm talking about not that prayer like we say the serenity prayer at the end of the night. I'm talking about like everything inside of me. I'll do whatever you want for the rest of my life. Just take her. And he showed me. He took her. You know that thing when we were kids that I told you about that said, don't do that? I got that back today. And that day it said, check your messages. And I didn't understand what it meant, so I checked my messages, and my messages didn't mean anything when we had the conversation, but she said this. We were running from Hurricane Irma, and we were on our way back home from Hurricane Irma back to Florida, and in the picture, she sent me a picture of the sun beaming through the clouds, and it said, wow. Now this conversation didn't mean anything when we had it, but now that she's gone and God told me check my messages, it meant everything after that prayer. And I said, awesome, where are you at? That was my response to her picture with the sun beaming through the clouds. And she said, somewhere over the rainbow, silly. Man, I'm telling you. And I said, is there bright blue skies? That was my response. I'll show it to you. And she said, yup, and the grass is way greener too. And I was like, oh my God. Yo, I'm reporting for duty, sir. I was supposed to be here 3 weeks now. And maybe because this is the week that I'm supposed to be here. Maybe it's because you're here, or you're here, or you're here, you know, I don't know. But I know God has touched my life, man, and I would love for him to touch yours. Because he'll change everything. And we also would love to see you on this side of the fence, not coming up and speak. This is easy. This is the easiest part of Alcoholics Anonymous. Coming up, carrying the message, and leaving. You don't know what it takes for a group to put this together, to get people, you know, like doing an event, like it's a lot of work, you know. But I'm talking about with us on the front lines, firing away, helping one. Yo, you are check this out. Doctors can't do what you are capable of doing. A medical professional who's been spent years of his life has one answer for you. Don't do it again. We have an actual solution to your problem, something that nobody has, and how dare you keep it to yourself. Go help someone else. We only try to do that because if we had the power to help people, the honest to God truth is my nephew and my brother and so many other people would be alive. But they're not. But he does give you this program of action, which I eloquently tried to outline to you, to help other people. And I know you can come to a meeting sometimes and you can get bored and dull, and you know, you hear the same stuff and you just kind of like stay in it, you know, come sit in a chair and leave, and you hear this and hear that and read the Just for the Day and bounce, you know. This thing is this is so much more powerful than that. We help the blind to see here. We heal the sick here. We raise the dead. I was dead and I'm alive. We do that here. So don't think like this is some, go to the meal, guess I'm going. Yo, man, I'm telling you, this is the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. And the people that raise their hand will tell you the same. And that 12-step fellowship that you guys are a part of, don't mistake it. It is also a 12-step fellowship. So I suggest if you ever go into a 12-step fellowship, for those of you that have been sitting here in the chair as long as you have, I suggest if you go to a 12-step fellowship, you might want to work the 12 steps of the fellowship. Makes sense. Love and blessing to you. God bless.
All right, again, my name is Brian. I'm an alcoholic. First and foremost, the group would like to thank Matt for coming out here, delivering just an incredible message of hope and recovery to our group here. A couple quick announcements and we'll close down the meeting. As was mentioned, we always have food and fellowship before this meeting every week, so feel free to get here early, socialize, enjoy the refreshments, the coffee we put out. If you do want to get involved in service with this group, even better. We're always looking for people to help out. A lot of moving parts go into putting this meeting together there every week. If you want to help out with a little bit of service work right after the meeting, you could always use help putting the chairs away. But like I said, most importantly, if you're out there, you're new, you're struggling, grab someone, hang out with us. It is customary to thank our speakers on a personal level. They come here on their own time and expense, so we do usually form a line in the front here, and we thank our speakers personally. Thanks to everyone for helping out with the meeting tonight. Thanks to our greeters, our readers. Thanks to Howard for taking care of the kitchen back there. And, thanks, Howard. Let's thank our speaker, Matt, one more time. Thank you. And if you do care to join us, we have a beautiful way of closing. We are going to circle up and close with our Lord's Prayer. Oh yeah, we're going to hold hands. We're going to hold hands, circle up, bringing it back. And we will close down the meeting, as always, with a brief moment of silence for the still sick and suffering alcoholic inside and outside of these rooms, followed by our Lord's Prayer. Our Father,